So the first thing that I wanted to say was the last time that we called, um, I was still in the I think in the early process of defooing and getting away from my parents, which I just wanted to say first off, thank you. I know you don't advise people to do anything, but just from what we talked about, I felt that it was really right to move out, and it was just amazing. It's really been a great process, and obviously still learning a lot. But so first off, thank you for that.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. All right.
Um,
So, and you said you had some what apologies, or I wasn't quite sure I followed that, or something like that.
yeah, so I wanted to say that last time it or I had planned on having a call with you. Um, I think March, and I kind of got was still dealing with being around my parents at that time and kind of coming back and forth, and I made an excuse. I made a lie. I mean, I was dealing with medical issues at the time, but I just said an excuse of like, oh, I can't make the call or something, and I just wanted to apologize to you for that because obviously it's a free call. You schedule time, or it's a it these calls are a big effort, so you're planning parts of your day around them. So I just wanted to say that I'm sorry about that. And um is there anything that else that I could say to help make that apology better?
No, that's fine. I appreciate that. I mean, as you say, you're going through a lot, and yeah, normally these days when I have paid calls, I usually have to charge people if they miss a call because it could have been something that I would have scheduled a paid call, but it's no problem. It's no problem. I'm happy that things are working out better for you, and I'm certainly happy to that philosophy had some help in that as a whole. That's lovely to hear.
It certainly did, and even me listening to some of the calls back before, it's just amazing. Obviously, I don't expect you to remember what who I am or my age or anything like that, but it's just my tone of voice and my passion is completely different. At least I notice in my own life now. It's like I was just so like I've done two calls with you in the past. The first one is like droning. The
Oh
second
yeah,
one
yeah.
is a little bit less, and now it's getting more human. So it's been great.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. And so, yeah, how can I best help you today?
So I wanted to get some moral clarity on a breakup that I just had about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Um, I think my main intention for the call is to find out where I wasn't virtuous in this relationship and where she wasn't. Um, and I'll kind of start with why I broke up and then go, uh, just you can ask questions to help me kind of to build around it, and we can come to a better understanding. But um, like I talked about before, I've been kind of going through this process of defooing and you know getting into listen to more of what I think is my heart, what I think is my uh is my gut. And 3 weeks ago, I just really had this strong feeling uh that I decided to finally act on, which was to break up with her. And we had spent two or little under 11 months together, and it was obviously painful and kind of my first real long-term girlfriend or relationship that went that long. I'm 22. Um, so, I really don't want to, I mean, I understand I have to get my hands dirty to date, but I don't want, it really hurt to see her face break like that. And I wouldn't, to see her hurt like that. And, you know, it was just painful for 2 weeks, and I'm feeling a lot better now. But where would you like me to start in terms of beginning to clarify
Well, I suppose
this?
let's come up with a name for her. Like, don't use her real name, but what name would you like to give her?
Let's just do Jane.
Jane. Okay. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your history with Jane, where you met, and how the relationship went, and so on.
So we met on a dating app, and it was, like I said, 11 months ago, so in the winter, and we just went from, you know, going on one date at a coffee shop, and you know, I think I was, and I was throughout the relationship, but even in the beginning, more or less interested, attracted wise into her as she was into me. She was pretty eager for the physical touch and the wanting to be close um, before I was, and we never really, looking back now, we never talked about the real, uh, and not that I'm expecting this out of a first date, but it, throughout the 10 months, it was almost like I was replicating what I had with my family, where we were just talking about nothing.
Hmm.
Just the weather type stuff, the skating on the surface, uh, you know, of just not talking about anything like that. And um, look, I tried to journal as I was after the breakup, and kind of realized that like whenever I would ask her about things, and I never pushed beyond, once she said, I just don't want to talk about this. But whenever I would ask her, like, oh, did you respect your father? Did you, why didn't your mom tell her, uh, you know, why didn't your mom tell you about her family history? Because she was from Eastern Europe. She just, I would ask a couple times, and then she would just go, "Oh, I don't want to talk about this,"
Hmm.
and I wouldn't go any further. So, would you say that I mean, that has to be a red flag, right?
Well, I mean, it certainly seems that way. Can you tell me what it was that you found attractive about Mary to begin with?
I think just that somebody that honestly, that it was just a desert for me of not having a lot of female attention. And I don't think it was a coincidence that uh I got out of my parents, and now, you know, I'm on my own. I'm in an apartment, and now I immediately go looking for somebody else without really having the time to build myself up.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I understand. Uh, so, what was it that you found attractive about her? I mean, there must have been something, right?
I was attracted to her physically.
So she was sexy.
Yes.
Okay, got it. All right, so she was sexy, and I guess a similar age. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and Was there anything else that you found appealing or attractive about her?
I remember our second date, she said, because she still wants to be a pediatrician, she said that we're here to help people. And I felt a real spring in my heart of like, oh wow, uh, she said she wants to help people. That at least at that time I was like, oh, that feels really good. I'm attracted to that, and she had a good sense of humor. I mean, she could. I think we jived, at least on the surface, conversationally, pretty well.
Okay. All right. And do you know much about her dating history?
She said that she had two or three boyfriends before me. I think one, she's a junior, so one freshman or sophomore year of college, but it seemed looking back now that she was insecure, and
Sorry,
that
you got to give me more facts because those are conclusions, and I'm not sure what you mean when you say it turns out that she was insecure. It seems like she was insecure. What does that mean? Oh, can you hear me?
yeah, I'm 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 just pausing, but it seems like I don't know why I'm blocking up on this, but
Yeah. So just if you give me conclusions, then it doesn't help me too much to sort of understand the situation.
okay.
Just because I don't know if the conclusions are accurate or inaccurate or what they're based on, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Um, I'll just start first by both. She has a brother as well. Both her and her brother, they portray it in their body language, like they're the kind of the neck slightly forward, shoulders hunched type thing. And whenever I would make jokes about you know her being sexy, or her being attractive, in the sense like, oh, you're sexy, you can do this or you can do that, she'll be like, oh no, I'm not that, no, I'm not that. Instead of, like, at least for me, I thought, if I was somebody, if I was a woman who was confident, I would roll along with that and be like, yeah, I would play into it instead of playing out of it. And I just always thought that was peculiar, but maybe that's my own personality.
Hmm.
Um, and I just thought, it's not that I wanted her to date more people before I knew her, but I just thought she would have dated more in high school. But she was just kind of shy, and she kind of joked that she felt that she was autistic at times, which she wasn't. She was just a smart girl. So
Okay. All right. And so, how did the relationship go? There was stuff that she didn't want to talk about, and so then you just didn't talk about it, or how did that go?
so I wanted to hold off because I was a virgin before I met her. I wanted to hold off on any of that for, I think I think I held off for like a month or 6 weeks before we started having sex. And
Sorry for the 6 weeks.
I think 6 weeks.
Okay.
And she told me, which I respected, that she said, I only have sex with people that I'm exclusive with. So we were just dating at the time.
Okay.
And then she said, I only have sex with people that I'm exclusive with. And I respected that, and we eventually did, and it was any any time I wanted it, I always got it, and I think that there were times where um there would be a disagreement or there would be something where we disagree with each other in the sense of like she she was obviously in college and a lot more liberal than me. Her friends were a lot more liberal than her, but she was still liberal. And I'm very, you know, anti the medical industry, and she's a pediatrician. And, she told me, well, I just want to believe in the medical industry. I want to believe that all this stuff is good. And I said, it just obviously just doesn't work that way. And
Sorry,
tried to be,
what I don't understand, what sort of stuff did you disagree on with regards to the medical industry?
well, we disagreed on vaccines for sure. She was very pro, and her family is pro, and they asked me to, um, you know, have you taken your COVID vaccine? Have you taken this? Have you taken that? And I was just lukewarm around the parents. I just brushed it off and didn't say anything. But to her, I was just like, I'm not going to do it. And she was very, I want you to take it. I want you to do this, you know.
Sorry, how long had
Or
you
she
been
wasn't
going
like,
out?
this had been this was probably 6 months down the line. So I'm sorry for messing up the timeline here.
Oh, that's fine. Go ahead.
But we one of the things that first came up, and I think I wanted to appease her, but it was probably before the first time we had sex, or when probably we were making out one time, 5 or 6 weeks, maybe before that. But she was like, I want you, or one thing I want to ask you is about abortion. And all of this, she said, it's, all these liberal talking points. It's the woman's right, and it's okay, and all this stuff. And I just, I went along with it, and I said, basically, who am I to judge type thing, which that wasn't true in my heart. That wasn't how I actually felt. I feel that all that stuff is terrible, and it's incredibly sad. And if I could avoid it, I would I would do anything to avoid it. But I wanted to have sex. I wanted to make out with her, and so I told her this lukewarm, half-assed answer that wasn't true to me. And that was something that I just avoided disagreement on. That would basically help me get in her pants.
Right. Okay. What else?
Um, she carried the school talking points of the American white people or colonizers type thing, which I just didn't. That was something that I did say. I was just like, I have respect for the people who came before me, and I'm not gonna walk around feeling bad. And she we didn't fight over it, but she would just stop talking about it. So I could tell that she didn't believe that. I can tell that her friends didn't believe that, and I felt the air of when I hung out with her friends of, you just feel that air of they respect you less because you're a man and because you're white and all that stuff. And I just passed over that. So I just put up with all these things. I I wasn't my true self to her. I think the same way that I wasn't my true self when I was with my parents. I was just appeasing them like I was appeasing her. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and of course they're both biological survival instincts, right? One is to keep your genes going by being with a fertile woman, and the other is to keep your life going by appeasing your parents, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, did she have any arguments? Like when people have said to me, "Oh, the natives, the natives, the natives," I'd be like, "Well, do you think that there's been more or less war between the natives since the Europeans came? Because, they were here for 16,000 years, give or take, right? And they were constantly at war with each other. Raping, pillaging, beheading, scalping, genociding each other. Do you think there was more or less war among the indigenous population before or after the Europeans came?" And what do you think she would say?
I think that she would say that it doesn't matter. It was still a genocide, or you're still a colonizer. All the
No, but
typical
it does
stuff.
matter. No, because if genocide is violence or whatever, right? Then it matters whether there was more or less violence. If genocide is violence and violence is bad, then it matters whether there was more or less violence overall in the North American continent after the Europeans came, because it was constant violence before.
Yeah, all of this
No, but I
is
mean, what would she say? Would she just say, "I don't want to talk about this anymore"?
yes.
Okay, and then I would say that's not an option.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you bring a topic up, right, then you can't just refuse to talk about it if something doesn't go your way, right? Like, listen, I respect these arguments. I don't like the fact, I don't like what happened to the native population. I don't like what the native population was doing to each other, and I don't like what happened to the native population. But if you're going to bring this topic up, I think it's good to have a discussion about it. Like, I'm not saying you're a bully, but it's kind of bullying to say, this is the facts, this is the way things are, and if somebody disagrees, to just shut down the conversation. That's kind of rude, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a complicated situation. I mean, most of the natives died from smallpox. And they didn't even have a theory of germs back then. They didn't know how diseases were transferred. I mean, half the population thought that diseases were punishment from God for sin. So you've got people, and they didn't, of course, they didn't understand that different diseases grow up or evolve with different populations. So the Europeans had no immunity to syphilis, which was a native disease. And the natives had no immunity to smallpox, which was a European disease. But nobody knew any of that. I mean, the germ theory wasn't even around until the late 19th century. They had some rudimentary idea of inoculations, of vaccines, because they in 1832, they tried a massive vaccination campaign to stop the natives from dying of smallpox, but it was a genuine tragedy. In the same way that the Black Death, which was theoretically, at least the general belief is that it was brought over from China on the backs of fleas, on the backs of rats on the ships. I mean, nobody had any clue. Nobody had a single clue. And, we can't go back in time and say, well, they ought to have known, and so on, right? So, right. If you're going to say my ancestors were evil, I mean, that's not a nice thing to hear, which, I mean, if they were evil, then we can talk about that. But we can't take judgments that we know now. Well, now we know smallpox is a virus that's transmitted through water droplets and so on. And we also know that when one population meets another population, might they be separated for tens of thousands of years, that there's going to be diseases that are going to jump back and forth between the two that are bad. And again, syphilis hit the Europeans, smallpox hit. But I mean, I would say that the native population was evil for introducing syphilis to the Europeans, and I wouldn't say that the Europeans were evil for introducing to the natives, because nobody had any clue what was happening or how things were transmitted, and certainly there was no cure. So, I mean, I think these are all very interesting questions. I obviously don't have all the final answers, and I'm not sure that anyone ever will. But, I mean, I think they're very interesting conversation to happen. And there is also, of course, the fact that communists are quite big fans of ancestors are evil. So, of course, a lot of the quote historians who talk about this kind of stuff with regards to Europeans are like open communists, and their goal is to demoralize white people, particularly white males, who tend to be quite resistant to communism as a whole. So there's that sort of additional wrinkle that there's not a lot of objectivity in these disciplines either. There are like these political agendas and things like that. And again, I'm not saying I have all the final answers, but I don't think it's fair to just say, well, they were evil colonizers and it was genocide. And no, they tried to trade, they tried to deal with, they didn't, And, kind of ironically, and this is not to blame the native population, but a lot of the native populations ended up spreading the disease because they were pillaging and robbing the graves of those who'd already died and were buried, which, again, nobody knew. Nobody knew. But it wasn't, this sort of evil whitey stuff is kind of a cartoon character stuff put forward by communists, which is not to say that Europeans shouldn't be criticized, of course, right? But calling it a genocide is not accurate because, again, 90% of the natives were killed by a virus and nobody knew what bacteria were or viruses.
Would you say that me not saying these things and just letting them roll over, whether it's about the abortion thing or about the all of this stuff with the Native Americans, and I even tried the Charlie Kirk situation where I just brought it up, and she didn't say that she, the super level of like, oh, I'm glad that he's dead, but he was just like, and it just kind of baffled me. She just said that it's sad, but I was tired of seeing it, and this was after like a week or 2 weeks, and I just thought, how could you? For me, it moved me greatly, and I didn't express that to her, which I realize is not courageous, and I didn't express to her all these things that you're talking about, which I understand about the Native Americans. I wasn't courageous in expressing that to her or about abortion, so it was just one of those things where, is it because I didn't respect her and I didn't respect myself that I didn't say these things, or was I scared, or
Sorry, are you asking me why you didn't say things that might have prevented you from gaining sexual access?
Yes.
No, listen, I'm not going to criticize you for any of that at all. I just so you know. I mean, not everyone you date has to be your wife. I dated a little bit here and there before I settled down with my wife. So you can say, I'm just going to shut up and I'm going to have sex. And I know it's not just sex, but, cuddling and, whatever, the sort of physical side, the sexual, romantic, cuddly, physical side, right? So you can say, okay, I'm not going to talk about things that are contentious because then she's going to dump me and I'd rather cuddle or have sex or whatever, right?
Okay.
So you can say that, and I'm not here to lecture you, and I'd be the last guy. So you're 22 years old, and I would be completely hypocritical for me. But what you're doing is you're saying, so this is a pass-through relationship. She's not the one. This is a place. She's a practice girl. She's a girl I will practice having a relationship with. I will learn how to, I don't know, be a better kisser. I'll learn how to cuddle nicely. I'll like whatever, right? So it's fine. Just know what it means. And what it means is the relationship is going to be temporary because you can only suppress your honesty and true self for so long, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I just going through that and all the emotion. I mean, I maybe it's just
No,
part
no,
of the
no. Sorry, no. You see, but the thing is that I don't think you accepted that this was a placeholder relationship, or I don't think you said to yourself, "Okay, so what I'll do is I'll suppress my true self. I'm not going to be honest. I don't think she can handle it. So this is just a placeholder. This is a relationship for a little while, and I'm not going to overly invest. I'm not going to pretend that this is some great love. I'm not going to pretend that this is some great connection, or that she could be the one. I'm just going to date. Do you see what I mean?
Are you saying that I subconsciously acted like that and I didn't accept that
Okay,
outright?
so how long have you been listening to what I do?
2 or 3 years?
2 or 3 years. Okay. Now, do you accept the argument that virtue is required for love?
Yes.
Okay. Was she a virtuous woman?
No.
Right. So if you accept, I mean, you can do the syllogism as well as I can, right? If you accept that love is required for virtue and she's not a virtuous woman, then you can have some dates, you can have some fun, you can have some cuddles, you can have some sex or whatever, and you're not going to marry her. It's not going to be particularly serious. You know, if you, let's say that you really liked riding bikes when you were a kid, and let's say you become a champion Olympic bike rider. I don't know if they do that, but something like that, right? Now, the first bike you get is not going to be the bike you compete in the Olympics with. It's not going to be some banana seat little pedal bike with tennis balls in the spokes, right?
Mm.
So she's a practice woman. She's a for now woman, right? I mean, usually it takes people a long time before they find what job it is that they really want to do, and or it often can't, right? And so you don't sit there with your first job and say, "Well, this is going to be it, man. I'm gonna work this job for the rest of my life."
Yeah. I
It's
just
just a
didn't.
job to get your skills up and to get, here's how to work, here's how to deal with bosses, here's how to deal with customers. It's not going to be for the rest of your life. I mean, otherwise I'd still have a paper route.
Yeah. I just didn't think any of that. I didn't plan ahead. I didn't.
No, hang on. So you knew that you were shutting up, right?
Yes.
Now, when I say, and I was actually just saying this to my daughter the other day, like, when I say, why were you shutting up? It sounds interrogatory. It sounds like I'm interrogating you and I have some big negative opinion about it. Like, why the hell were you? I'm just genuinely. So, what's the logic behind? What are the thoughts that precede not being honest?
I want to get what I want. I want.
But that's the thought that precedes everything. I want to get
Okay.
what I want, right? I'd like a latte. Oh no, I want to get what I want, right? No, but what is that? You can get what you want by being honest, right? So, what
Yeah.
are the thoughts behind? I'm not going to debate. I'm not going to disagree with her.
I want something that I wouldn't get if I told her the truth.
Well, do you know that for sure?
I'd say in my heart, yes. If I
Okay, so how, and I'm not disagreeing with you. I mean, you obviously know the girl infinitely better than I do, but how do you know you couldn't get what you want, i.e. cuddling or whatever, by being honest?
I don't know because was never truly honest to begin with.
Right. Now, I don't know whether you're right or whether you're wrong, but you don't have clear empirical evidence, right?
Yes.
So, why do you think you had the conclusion that you couldn't get what you wanted by being honest?
I think it goes back to my parents. I wasn't honest with them.
Well, okay,
And
maybe. But before we do that, was she honest with you?
yes. Well, no. No, but yeah.
Okay, no, I get it. It's complicated. Okay. So why do you say yes and no?
I said yes on the surface, but I think she's smart enough to know that I wasn't being honest because
No,
women
no, no, no,
under
no, no. Just her to you. Her to you. Was she being honest with you?
just in general or in her actions or
Okay. So she said evil whiteys genocided the natives, right?
yes.
Okay. Now, what would be the most honest statement that someone could say about that perspective?
Do you have any proof?
No, from her standpoint. Not the most. Sorry, that's not the most honest question that you could have given her. But what's the most honest statement that she could have given you about evil whitey genocided the natives?
White people are bad?
No. The most honest thing that she would say is, I don't know this at all. This
Mm,
is just what I've been told.
mm,
But I have a great rack so people don't contradict me. At least men don't.
mm.
Right? I mean, there's that scene. I mean, again, I'm not saying she had a great rack, but she said she was sexy. So whatever it is that you happen to find sexy. Like that scene in the elevator in Liar Liar where Jim Carrey turns to, he's got a curse, he's got to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Right? And he says, oh, and she's like, oh, everybody's been so nice to me. And she's got like boobs for days up on a scaffold or something like that. And he's like, well, that's because you've got giant, right? Mama. So what's the most honest thing she could say is, hey, I've been told that Europeans genocide the natives. I don't really know what a genocide is. I don't really know the mechanics, something to do with smallpox, but I haven't checked. I haven't read any contrary arguments. I've just kind of swallowed wholesale what people have told me, and I don't really know for sure. Wouldn't that be honest from her perspective?
Yes.
Now, did she ever express doubt or say, but I don't know for sure, or have you heard anything different, or what are your thoughts? I'd love to hear them, or anything like that? Or was it just a basic fact and truth of reality, like gravity and sunlight?
There was never anything like that.
Okay, so she just repeated platitudes that she'd been told without examining any contrary opinions, and she accepted nonsense that she'd been told as truth.
Yeah.
So she was an NPC.
Wow.
I mean, the NPC is programmed by the computer programmer. They don't come up with their own things to say. There's a little
Oh my
dialogue
gosh.
wheel, right? So she has been programmed by another person who's running everything in her heart, mind, and soul, or quote soul. And She doesn't question, and she doesn't think, and she doesn't look at the other perspectives or opinions. So she's an NPC, right?
I never thought of it that way.
Well, you had virtual sex.
What do you mean?
Well, virtual sex is when there's a programmer who creates some sort of avatar, and you put on a VR helmet and get one of Joe Rogan's patented fleshlights or something like that, right? And you
Yeah.
have sex not with a woman, but with a bunch of pixels or digits. You're having sex with ones and zeros. You're humping the matrix.
Yeah.
So you had an avatar pretending to be a woman that the dialogue wheel doesn't have disagree with it. It's I agree because you're right, or I agree because I'm horny, or I agree because you're sexy, or I agree because I'm frightened, but there's no I disagree option in the dialogue wheel for this model of the MP3, right? This we can call her the Sperminator or something like that.
You're on a roll. Yeah, I mean that's exactly the way that my mom acted in it, and like there was never it was just a wheel, like you said. Wow. Yeah.
Now, how do you know that she wasn't doing the same thing with you? She didn't like you, but you're good looking. And I don't know. You got some sexy attribute that she likes. Dark, smoky eyes, great hair, whatever, wide shoulders, narrow waist, whatever, right? So how do you know she wasn't holding her nose to have sex with you?
I don't know.
Well, she didn't like your true opinions, which is why you hid them, right? And you didn't like her false opinions, right? So she didn't like you in terms of
Wow.
who you were, and you didn't like her, as far as I can tell. So, I mean, you're just two people exchanging body fluids who are like held hostage by your hormones and don't really like the other dealer.
Wow.
What, did you sort of feel like, oh, I'm wrong and bad? And like, you know that women can use men, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you didn't like each other and you had sort of hate sex in a way or something like that, right?
Wow. I'm just taking that all in.
And again, I'm not saying you hated each other. Like, I'm sure you, at least to some degree, got along, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you didn't really like each other. You didn't really respect each other. She didn't respect your thinking, and you didn't respect her lack of thinking. But you were sexually drawn to each other. You know, what's that old song? You and me, baby, we ain't nothing but mammals, so let's do it like they do on the Discovery Channel, right? So you just have an animal sex, right? You're rutting.
It feels like I hid that from myself though, because how can I not? Is that's just how strong the hormones are?
Well, I mean, also it's your conditioning. So you will be drawn, as we all are, you will be drawn to have your father's reproductive strategy, right? That's the basic programming of males and of females. To do what daddy did because daddy made me, right? So your father, you said, had babies with an NPC. If I understand what you were talking about with your mother, you said this woman was like your mother and that she had sort of pre-programmed responses and didn't think for herself. Did I get that right, or did I miss something?
Yeah, and I've been going through your older podcasts, and
Damn,
you
it's been
talked.
20 years, man. You can say old by now. But anyway, go on.
You're and you mentioned this dream about one horse, and the horse typically representing a subconscious, and I have been having vivid dreams lately about with her being in it, and there's one dream where my mom is real into horses, and it's my mom and my ex's mom, and they're kind of walking side by side with each other, and there's a fence, and they're watching a horse on the other side, and it's our old house. Our old house had a little bit of land, and our neighbors had a horse on the other side. And to me, I just interpreted that clearly as just they're separated from their subconscious or true self. I mean, does that seem pretty close to NPC level?
Like where they're separated from a horse?
Yeah, yeah, they're fenced off from the horse. They're watching it together.
Yeah, I can see that. I think, horsepower is kind of a unit of strength measurement for torque and so on. And so, yeah, I can certainly see that. But your father reproduced with a woman. Okay, how good is your mom at handling reasoned contrary opinions or arguments?
Not at all. There's no questioning or no none of the ways that you and it's not that you're like the idol, obviously, but it's just like any of the ways that you're inquisitive, which I expect people who respect you to be, respect me or respect any person that they're talking with to be inquisitive. There was never anything like that. It
Yeah,
was all just
you can't love someone and not want to know what they think or judge immediately negatively what they think, right? That's not love at all, right? So,
it's
sorry, go ahead.
wow, yeah. I'm just that's very true for my relationship with my mom.
Right. So, how well did most men do in small tribes when they said, I'm going to look for a woman who's the opposite of my mother?
Not good.
No, it's terrible, right? I mean, imagine you're in some, I don't know, small Muslim tribe somewhere in the middle of nowhere. I remember in 1999, I went to Morocco and spent a week or two there with a friend of mine. We did Y2K there. It was quite exciting. And I remember at one point, I went on a hike with him and we climbed this, I guess it was sort of like a high hill or a low mountain or something. And I looked over and there was this just little village about a kilometer away. And, there were people putting up their washing and kids playing in the sort of dusty half streets. And like one little road that went there, and it was the end of the road because it didn't even go any further. And so, these people, they grew up their whole lives there. Maybe there were 100 or 200 people, maybe 300. And everyone's the same. These are the women you get to choose from as a man. So the evolution is, I want a girl just like the girl that married dear old dad. Because there was not a whole heap of choice. You couldn't evolve. You couldn't become different. You couldn't become better. You couldn't go from superstition to reason. Like the tribe wasn't divided into two halves. Or you just step over the line and go to the other half, right?
Mm.
So you are going to be inevitably drawn to women like your mother because that's why you are here. You are here because men chose women like your mother. If they hadn't chosen, or if they'd said, nope, I'm holding out for a rational, philosophical woman, right? Well, then they become a monk and they die with their seed unspread, right?
Mm.
So it's not a moral thing. This is why I say, I'm not judging, especially because you're so young. But it's not a moral thing. It's just we are programmed to do what our fathers did because that's why we're here. And so, when your mother was younger, was she attractive?
Yeah.
Right. So you are drawn towards women who spend way more time on their makeup and exercise than on reading and thinking. It's so funny. Like, so some women are like, how dare you treat me as a sex object? It's like, well, that's what you're doing. You, my dear, are treating yourself as a sex object because you are putting a lot more effort into your appearance and sexiness than in your thinking and reasoning, right?
Mm.
So if you're going to treat yourself as a sex object, I'm not sure why I would have to magically do something different. Because if you haven't spent, I don't know. I mean, it's nice when a woman takes care of her appearance. I get all of that. That's good. But, at least spend 30-40% of your time on reading and thinking and virtue. Even if it's like 25%, that's fine. But if you're like 100% on appearance and 0% on thinking and reasoning, you've voluntarily become an NPC, and then you're upset with people for calling you an NPC. It's bizarre. I mean, if you don't want to be a sex object, then develop some other positive attribute other than your sexiness. And it doesn't sound like this woman did in particular, which is fine. That's true of a lot of people. But if she doesn't have much to offer other than her sexiness, and you didn't have much to offer other than your sexiness, because you were hiding your true self too, right? You turned yourself into an object. See, NPCs turn other people into NPCs. So you became an NPC because you took stuff off the dialogue wheel, right?
Yeah.
So she's an NPC, and the only way you can have sex with an NPC is to choose the right thing on the dialogue wheel. Except you can't save and load the game, right? You know how in Skyrim you've got to keep using your lockpick. Anyway, so you can't save and load the game, so you got to be really cautious. Because if you say the wrong thing on the dialogue tree, then it's like those. I don't think they're that popular at all anymore. Although I read one with my daughter about the famous five, but there used to be these adventure books, choose your own adventure books. Right? You're going down a dark tunnel. One tunnel. The tunnel splits. One leads down and to the left, and one leads up and to the right. Which one do you take? And if you take the left one, turn to page 14. If you take the right one, turn to page 62. Whatever it is, right? And you just make these choices, and you go through. And a lot of times, the choices you make are really bad. And there was a Dragon's Quest, or I can't remember what it was called. It was a Laserdisc game that was in the arcades way back in the day, constantly breaking down because the Laserdiscs weren't used to this kind of gaming thing. And you had to move left, move up, and it would just load the next scene on the Laserdisc. And so, sorry to labor it, Dragon's Lair, I think it was. But you've got some dialogue options. One leads to rejection, and one leads to sex. Now, for your ancestors, if you could shout at them and they say, well, I've got these dialogue options. One leads to rejection, which is me being honest, and the other one leads to sex, which is me suppressing what I think and feel. What would you be screaming for your ancestors to do?
I'd be screaming sex.
Yeah! Do the sex! I'm half despawning here, bro. I'm getting all staticky. I'm beaming out. So you would say to your ancestors, shut up and get the egg. Get the egg that gets the egg that gets the egg that gets the egg that gets me born, right? So what are your great-great-great-grandchildren screaming in your ear when you're considering the dialogue tree of the hot NPC?
Sex.
For God's sakes, man, shut up! Do not irritate the eggs. They do not make a pearl. Right? So you're as part of being the great chain of being, you want to keep your thoughts to yourself and spread your seed. Because if you spread your thoughts, you don't get to spread your seed. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that I think because it would give me so much more confidence in my gut, knowing that my true self was wanting to get out, and I wasn't just confined to, oh, I'll just stick to the NPC mode, just the sex mode. It was eventually, I felt like I had to get it out. Like I had to say, I have to break up with you. And it's really only me talking with you. And I've been seeing a counselor the past couple of weeks as well, and just talking about it, that I think that was my true self. Because I mean, if there's any way that I can mitigate not being around or not dating any more NPCs, that's obviously what I want.
So what do you mean that's obviously what you want?
Well, it was just, I don't want another 10 months of not being myself, of lying to myself. I mean, I understand that that's my conditioning, but
Sure you do.
that's,
Stop taking yourself down to one variable. That's not life. Right? So part of you wants to be honest and part of you says, shut up. Because it's not like in the next relationship, you're not just going to face no anxiety for being honest, right?
yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
could explain the whole world in about 10 minutes, but I also knew that I would get nuked into orbit if I did. So, you know, I want to, but I won't. So it's not like, well, I'm just going to go be honest. It's like, no, I also want to not get nuked into orbit, right? So you are complex, like we're all complex. You have a multitude, you have an ecosystem, right? So part of you wants to shut up and reproduce. And part of you wants to be honest, if that makes sense. Because it's complicated. Is that right? Now, I obviously I think it's better if you could be honest, for sure. It's definitely better as a whole if you can be honest. That I agree with. Sorry, go ahead.
Surely the route that I would go down, if that's the precedent that I set with this woman, I mean, that it would never lead to anything, any true good or loving relationship, right? So how do I go about?
No, but you have to remember that the purpose of love, the purpose of attachment is not love. What's the purpose of attachment?
So you're attached there when your children are born?
Yeah, the purpose of attachment is reproduction. Now, you're saying that, and most people throughout history were not UPB compliant, to put it mildly, right? So they weren't UPB compliant. And so most people settled for hot and similar values. Right? There's a reason why nature gave us a lust for physical forms rather than a deep sexual appreciation of abstract virtues. Because those abstract virtues were absent throughout most of human history. I mean, really, the chance to survive against the wishes of the tribe is so recent, it's barely been selected for, evolutionarily speaking. So what we're trying to do is take a mechanism of sexual bonding that was there to have people hold their noses and raise children, and we're trying to rejig it to a virtue. We're like trying to hack the bonding mechanism. I mean, in general, you should admire your spouse and you should respect their moral choices and integrity and all of that. But, I mean, you think of the Aztecs, right? I mean, it wasn't like there were a whole bunch of virtuous women out there, right? Or you could think of the Japanese. I mean, imagine like in the sort of, I guess up until they all turned into anime cliches after 1945, but think of how brutal the child abuse had to be in Japan to produce Japanese soldiers that tortured their prisoners of war in the horrible way that they did. So, if you were looking for virtue, you died out pretty quickly in, say, 15th century Japan or something like that, right? Plus, because of the hyperconformity of the society necessary for both the farming of rice and survival as a whole, in the hyperconformity of the society, look at me, I'm all the same, like I'm the same as everyone else, right? Why would you choose? I mean, So the reason that you would choose to copy-paste personalities that populate most of human history, the only reason you choose someone is, status, money, family, and hotness. So we're trying to get on a horse, charging towards status, fertility, and hotness, and trying to wrestle it towards virtue, which is it's a complicated thing, right?
Yeah, and just me seeing now how that's a part of me, I think will help. But
It
I
has to
want
be a part
to.
of you, right? Because otherwise you wouldn't be here, and we can't logically hate the very processes that end up with us being alive. I mean, I can say, gee, you shouldn't choose women just based on looks. But if that was true, I wouldn't be here. Because my mom was very attractive when she was younger, was not overly stuffed to the gills with virtues. And
Yeah.
same thing for you, right? So saying, well, I just don't want it, it's like, you kind of do, because that's evolutionary. And
Yeah.
because otherwise, if you just say, well, I don't want that, without recognizing that you're going to still want that, means that you're going to get tripped up, right?
Yeah.
Or you're going to be disappointed in yourself when you, like if you date another girl for hotness or whatever, and be, oh man, I'm so bad. It should be virtue, blah, 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 right? But it is natural. We have lust, we have testosterone, we have lots of funky things that were handed to us by 4 billion years of evolution. And, we don't want to be communists and just sort of wish away the entirety of human nature. Not that I don't want to insult you or anything, right? But just when you say, well, I don't want that, it's like, you can't. Yeah, of course you do, to some degree, right?
Yeah. So, what is a better approach then?
Now
Is
I
it
need to
just
know what happened. Sorry, it's just gossip at this point. What happened with Mary? How did things play out?
when I broke up with her, or just as a whole,
No,
or
the 10-month arc.
so it was just kind of going along of just sex whenever I wanted it, uh, dating every time that we went out, me not
I assume she wanted it
confronting.
too, though, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you were mutually exploiting each other on the altar of lust.
Yeah.
And
That's
again, I say this without any big finger wagging monk like stuff, right? But I mean, that seems pretty accurate. Okay, so you
well,
were both enjoying each other's physicality while not particularly liking each other's personalities.
yeah, I just react in that way when you say stuff like that, because it's so square real. It's just yeah, yeah. Um
Okay, so you've got sex whenever you want it and sex whenever she wants it.
yeah.
And you're kind of rubbing your legs together, hoping to spark a fire of love, but all you get is some dribbles. Okay. And then how does it go from there?
So when she asked the abortion question, and I wasn't truthful with her, that was kind of the start of my gut feeling of that that rising suspicion, and I had it throughout the relationship. So throughout the 10 months we were just dating, she never said she loved me, and then when I broke up with her, she said, "Oh, this whole time I did love you." But it was just the same
Well, hang
thing
on.
of just us.
So hang on. So you had a lot of sex, and um, but what was it that had you guys stop dating? What happened there?
So I read a book that was just more about getting in tune with your intuition and your heart, and I had attended a Tony Robbins event, and they're big on, at least what I got from it was trying to listen to more of my heart. And one of the things I wrote down at the event was that I felt that I wanted to break up with her, and that was 2 weeks before the breakup. And then I kind of dithered around a little bit, or I did dither for 2 weeks, and then eventually just sat her down and told her. But for that 10-month arc, it was pretty much just dating, hanging out, having fun, and hooking up.
Okay. And what did you say to her when you broke up?
I said that I or I don't think that we're the one for each other. I'm feeling very distant from you. It was once I read the book, and realized that this was a real thing. This feeling of me wanting to break up with her was a real thing. I felt immediate fear, and then after that, calm, and just calm with the decision. And then obviously leading up to it, then I felt the fear and then had to do it and all of that. But I just told her that I feel distant from you. I feel like we're not the one for each other. Um, I'm sorry. What else did I say? Um, she was asking for a reason, and I didn't provide her a reason until later, and texted her that she might have some unprocessed trauma, which I realized was not good. I should have told her in person and talked about that in her childhood, unprocessed trauma in her childhood. And then after that, she didn't text me anything. She blocked me everywhere. And then I did the whole day later, oh, I want you back type thing, and called her and did that one time and realized that it was stupid. So that was how that
Oh, so
ended.
she agreed to come back, or?
No, I called her after she had blocked me.
Yeah.
I didn't realize she had blocked me until then, and then I called her and did the whole withdrawal, sex withdrawal addiction thing of, oh, I want you back. And I don't know if she ever received that, but I did that once, and then called to try to apologize, and then realized that I was blocked, and then called the dad, and no response either, wanting to apologize, and then no response. And yeah, the week later, the dad called me back, but I just didn't answer because I knew that it was just a. At least I knew in my heart then that it was just a drug withdrawal thing, I guess.
The dad called you.
Her dad. So I left a voicemail for her dad saying I want to apologize. I made a mistake. I was just
You mean because you wanted to get back?
because I wanted to get back. And
Sorry, but help me understand the dad thing.
so I had her dad's number and I had her number, and she had blocked me. So I assumed she just didn't get the call, or it went to voicemail. She didn't want to call me, but I called her first, and then I called the dad, and then there was no response from the dad either. And then a week later, the dad called me back, but I just didn't receive it at the time, and I saw the caller ID later, and I just decided not to pick back up.
Okay, got it.
So, yeah. Um, where I mean, it's just the theme again of just
And
not
sorry,
being
how long ago? Sorry to interrupt. How long ago did you break up?
middle of October,
Okay, got it. And she
and then
hasn't contacted you since, right?
no.
Okay. And what was it? What was the trauma? Did you have a sense of what trauma? I mean, do you had those conversations at all, or how did that? How did it come about that you felt that she needed this to process this trauma?
We didn't have any of those conversations because it was just always once she said she didn't want to talk about it, I just stopped talking about it and brought up the skating on the surface conversations. But I just had these feelings that kind of built up from watching her parents interact, and from her not wanting to talk about her dad and never outright admitting that she respected her father. Like whenever this is as much as I pressed her on asking whether she respected her father, she was like, "Oh, oh, 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 it's not that black and white. It's not that simple." I can't just say I respect him. It's not that simple. And that was one thing that raised my gut, my flare of like, why wouldn't you just say that you respect him if you do respect him? And another thing with that that was a huge gut turning moment for me was we all walked this or sorry, I walked this 5K with my ex, her father, and her mother. And the father ran, and the father's 60 years old, and we walked, and he ran really good for a 60-year-old. I mean, I used to run cross country, and to be that old and get under 40 minutes, I think you're in the 1% of 60-year-olds. And I saw him cross the line, and we were waiting there for him. And I was like, hell yeah, congrats, congrats. I was really psyched and pumped for him and congratulating him. And they were just nagging him. And it was like I saw into the future that that would be me if I were them. It was like I saw it was like I had perfect in that moment, crystal clear vision, and I've never had that before of I'm going to be just in this hell of being nagged at and underappreciated, and this is my life. I'm just managing this. And th- are gut feelings like that real, or is it just I mean, to me, it felt so strong of like, oh my gosh, this is what's going to be me. I mean, can you look at a father and say like, yeah, that's probably going to be my relationship if
Oh,
that's
absolutely. Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
okay. 'Cause
Absolutely.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, no,
Um,
that's a very real thing. And here's the funny thing too. So do you know why he was such a good runner?
no, why?
Oh, because he didn't like being home.
Oh my gosh,
Am I wrong?
no, no. Um, wow. And then I even talked to her about it. I was like, hey, your mom kind of nags him, and she was like, and my girlfriend or the ex was just like, she just always nags, and I thought like, why, like I again, I didn't press it, but I I just thought again like, why is that acceptable? Why is that okay to do to someone that you supposedly love? Is that is that not a crazy demand, or is nagging just? I mean, is that a too high of a demand to
Well, it's a
not
risk. Yeah, it's a risk. It's a risk like all high demands. I mean, all high demands come with benefits and costs, right? If you say, I want to make $1 million a year, okay, well, you can aim for that. And if you don't get it, you'll be disappointed. If you do get it, there'll be costs to it too, which is probably a whole lot of work, like a whole lot of workaholism, right? So yeah, you can have high demands for sure. I said, I want to tell the truth, even if it's inconvenient, and that comes with a little bit of a price to pay. So yeah, you can have the high demands, and if you have the high demands, then maybe you'll get them, and maybe you won't. I mean, if you have low demands, like I want a job where I get paid $15 an hour, well, you can get that job, right? It's not going to be that hard to get a job like that, although maybe now, but in the past. So as far as demands go, if you say, look, I want a love based on virtue and integrity and honesty, then you are rolling the dice to some degree. I mean, there's some things that you can control, but you're rolling the dice, and maybe you'll get what you want and you'll be the happiest guy around, and maybe you won't, in which case, maybe your genes are dead. I mean, I personally am a high stakes guy, as you may imagine. I'm a high stakes guy. I like the high stakes. That brings out the best in me. I think. And so I'm a high stakes guy. And if you're listening to Anthony Robbins, he's a high stakes guy, right? Make your life mean something, dig deep, do good, be honest. He's a high stakes guy, right?
Yeah.
And so if you want to be a high stakes guy, which I think is great, then, just be aware that there's nothing that's free. Obviously, right? That there's risks.
Yeah. I I I keep thinking about the morality is a relationship line, and what is the better way to weed out the non-virtuous if, like in that
Oh,
situation
you know
before.
that. Come on, you don't need to ask me that. Nice try. You know that, right? You don't need to ask me that because you already told me.
Tell the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when I met my wife, she asked me questions about my life. And I said, hey, I may be unemployed at the moment. I may be living in a small apartment, but I want to be a world historical figure. Right? That's what I want to do. Now, at the time, I thought it was going to be a novel writing and whatever it was, right? But I said, I've got a really good brain and I've got really good options. And I mean, I'd already succeeded quite a bit in terms of business, the business world. I did quite well, but and then she said, here's what I want from my life. And I told her, here are my crazy opinions. And she said, here's the opinions that I have. And we talked back and forth, and we've been talking back and forth for like almost a quarter century now. So just be honest.
So that's that's all there is to it. The next person who asks me about abortion or about Native Americans or anything like that, it's that simple. It's just, and that weeds it out. It's that easy. I already knew what you were going to say before I thought about asking it, but okay. Yeah, I just I don't want the 10 months wasted. I don't want the emotional. It wasn't wasted. I shouldn't say it wasn't wasted, but
Well, you tried the lust thing.
yeah,
I mean, we're empiricists, right?
yeah.
So you had a theory that the lust thing might lead to something positive, right? I mean, I don't think you went into the relationship. It doesn't sound like you went into the relationship saying, well, I mean, come on, this isn't going to be for very long. Like, if you meet, you're traveling and you meet some girl in Tunisia or Rome or something, and you have a torrid week-long affair, and then she goes back to Australia and you go back to Iceland. I mean, nobody really thinks that's going to be a lengthy thing, right?
Right.
So, I mean, did you go in thinking that this might lead somewhere great and she might be the one? And was that your... I know that sounds cynical. I'm genuinely curious. I mean, what was that? Did you think that was going to last? That you could just not tell the truth for the rest of your life? I mean, sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but was that what was your thinking? Like, oh shit, I can pull off this lying stuff for what? It's only 70 more years.
Well, I told her about 3 or 4 weeks in, hey, I'm looking for a long-term relationship, and she said, I'm looking for that too, which I thought was another good quality. But yeah, it wasn't something that I thought of. Oh, I just a short-term fling. That's not. I didn't have that in mind. I don't think. No. Um, but again, I still wasn't honest. So she would have said different if I spoke the truth and was honest with myself. So that that approach is so much more simpler and would have speed ran that relationship with learning to boot if I just was honest.
Right. But
So
you were, and the dishonesty was like you kind of dangled, well, I'm looking for a long-term relationship, right? But you didn't like her,
yeah,
right? You didn't have the same methodology of thinking. Like, you don't have to agree. In fact, it would be kind of boring if you did, right? So you don't have to agree on everything. I mean, my wife taught me things that just, kind of blew my mind. I would never have imagined it. I didn't agree with the things she put forward sometimes. She didn't agree with the things I put forward sometimes. But we always committed to sort of, stay patient, keep talking, reason things through. And where we couldn't decide, we moved on to, well, it's empiricism, right? So I think that the issue that you had in the relationship, if I understand it correctly, and again, I'm just coming in here semi-blind, right? Just based on sort of my understanding of the last sort of hour. But I think that you didn't have the same methodology. She was, what would be called a social metaphysician. She doesn't ask what is true. She asks, what do people believe is true? It's not the most intellectually respectable and strong response, right? It is, oh, well, I was safe repeating this stuff back. I would have been in danger if I didn't repeat this stuff in school. And listen, I mean, I don't even have any opinion about that because there was still some vestiges of, the earlier rationality of the past when I was going to university. So I didn't have, nearly as much difficulty as people are having these days in school. So I try to be pretty humble about that. So, yeah, so you didn't have the same methodology, as far as I understand it. You did not have the same methodology of figuring out the world. She takes things at face value. She's easily programmed, doesn't question, and she's in fact hostile to questioning, right?
yeah,
She's, I don't want to talk about it. I don't like this game anymore, right? So I don't want to talk about it. So you have a more sort of curious, open-minded, empirical, I dare say rational method of figuring out the world and all of that, right?
hmm
And they're not compatible. That's an either or. Either she learns how to think originally and creatively and with reference to reason and evidence, or, and you can't go the other way. You can't unlearn how to think any more than you can unlearn how to speak English, right? Even if you didn't speak English for like 30 years, you still understand it and be able to speak it, right? So you can't undo. She can only rise to your level. You can't lower yourself to her level. And so if she's
yeah,
not willing to learn how to think, to take the coaching, in other words, if she's vain, because that's the big issue with people who don't think, is they're ungodly vain because they don't have the humility of saying or thinking, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. They cannot process being wrong. I don't understand it because I'm constantly like, ooh, am I wrong? I could be wrong about this. Ooh, I could be wrong about that. Ooh, I could be wrong about the other. I'm constantly thinking that, right? And I don't understand at all. The people who just, nope, this is the way it is. The period people. It's like this, period, right? So you can't do what she does. You can't unlearn thinking. And so you gave it a shot, right? Which is, hey, I wonder if we could do it this way. And I think you found out that you can't.
yeah. This methodology, is it something that you have to expect outright, or can it be trained, or is it something that like is it a first date thing where I can notice the methodology already
Oh
coming
yeah.
up?
Oh no, it's a first date thing. Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So I mean, we've been around. I say you're like less than half my age, right? But I think in general we've been around long enough that we know the standard talking points, right? So if she's like, oh, yes, the evil whiteys, they genocided the blah, 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 right? It's like, okay, that's just an NPC talking point, right? And, for a woman to be, well, abortion it's a woman's right to choose and it's human rights and blah, blah, blah. That's just an NPC talking point. And I'm not saying that those aren't even remotely defensible positions. But what you want to hear from someone is, well, I this is what I accept at the moment. Here's, I accept that there's the woman's right to choose, but I also do understand that there are people who are very passionate about this because, in their perspective, it's a human life, that's a human baby, and the most vulnerable in society should get the most protection. So I understand that argument and I appreciate it. And if I believed all of that, I believe what they believe, but here's why I don't believe it, and blah, 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 blah. This argument, right? So you can be pro-choice and not an NPC. But you have to think it through and you have to take into account the other or opposing arguments. Make sense? You could be a socialist and not be an NPC. I mean, that's a little tougher. But you could be a socialist, and if you've said, okay, what are the major arguments against socialism? Okay, so there's the price theory, the public choice theory, can't allocate resources without objective market prices. Like so it relies on the initiation of force. It's totalitarian. It's never worked, right? So you could be a socialist, but you have to address those arguments. So this woman that you dated, Mary, she can say evil whiteys genocided the natives. That doesn't make her an NPC. If she says, here's the counter arguments of that. I've examined them. I've looked at primary sources. I've thought it through, and here's the reasoning that I've come up with, and I'm open to your thoughts. I'm open to correction. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, and there was never any of that.
Yeah, there's no doubt. It's just this way. Be nice. It's like, okay, how about she said, we're put here to be nice, right? To help people.
Yeah.
Right? But she lied. Terrible liar. Because if you are in error, if you believe, maybe if you're pro-life, and if you don't believe that evil whitey genocided all the natives, then she should help you to get the truth, right?
Wow.
So she wasn't nice to you at all, because we don't let people we love writhe around in fundamental error.
Oh my gosh.
We don't. When I was raising my daughter, if I'd have said to her, oh, yeah, I mean, you can eat dirt. Yeah, that's fine. Right? Well, no, because she should eat dirt. Okay, maybe a little for her immune system. Right? But if I were to say, oh, you should learn how to ride a bike by going down a concrete hill or a gravel road, right? That's how you should learn how to ride a bike. Then that would be bad for her, right? She could get really badly injured. And so she's like, well, I think we're here to help people. It's like, okay, well, if you have the wrong perspective, if you're in error about something, especially something moral, then she should want, because she cares about you, she loves you, she wants to help you, she should help you out of your error, right?
And she never did that.
She never even tried.
Mm.
She never even tried.
Wow.
I mean, if she had a kid and there was supposed to be, I don't know, he had pink eye or something, and she had to put some eye drops in 3 times a day, and you said, oh, so 3 times a week, would she correct you?
I mean,
yeah, because she wants her kid's pink eye to get better, right?
Yeah.
Conjunctivitis? I think something like that. I was thinking gingivitis, but it's like, no, that's gums. Right, so if the medicine is supposed to go in 3 times a day, and you think, and you're in charge of the kid, right? Your kid together, and you say, okay, so 3 times a week, right? She would say, no, 3 times a day, not a week, a day. Repeat back to me. Look at me in the eye. Look up from your screen. repeat, right? I'm going to write it in reverse letters on your forehead, right? So when you take a selfie, 3 times a day, not 3 times a week. So she would correct you, because if she didn't correct you, the whatever bacteria or whatever's in the eye would just get worse, right?
Mm.
So she would correct you, and her whole job as a doctor would be to correct people who were making mistakes, and or give them the right medicine and make sure they understood it, repeat it back to me, right? And if someone called up and said, "Oh, I forgot it, was it 3 times a day or 3 times a week?" She'd say, No, 3 times a day. She'd say 3 times a day, right? So to help people means we must help them out of error. And she
Yeah.
wasn't willing to help you out of error. So she's not very helpful at all. In fact, it's kind of the opposite, right? She allowed you to persist in error because she just wanted to get laid. And you allowed her to persist in error because you wanted to get laid. But if we care about people, we should make sure they don't persist in error, right?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, and this shows too, right? Like the hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I got a thunderstorm here. But
A
that
thunderstorm of wisdom. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, it certainly is. It's amazing, and I think it shows the way that I acted and what I expected came from my family of what I expected from them, which was
And your
still
genes.
nothing.
Yeah, and it's not
Yeah,
just your family, it's also your genes.
and it's just the dangers of dating an NPC. It's just, I mean, there is obviously, if you have sex all the time, you're gonna have pregnancy scares and birth control stuff, and it's like, why even go?
Well, and there
It's
was no
just,
chance to do that throughout most of her history because there was no birth control. But sorry, go ahead.
well, it was just 10 months of just this lust thing, but it it could have been hell. I could have ended up as that 60-year-old guy in hell. That,
Well, that's
I
a
mean,
shotgun wedding, right?
yeah,
Yeah, the shotgun wedding is, oh, sorry, bro, you got her pregnant. So that's it for you. Now you got to live with her for the rest of your life. And you're like, oh, please die in childbirth, or something that's kind of dark, but you know what I mean, right?
well, yeah, I mean, and like you said, I can't. It's been so true in the process of the defu of there's no going back. There's no unlearning, and you would be that person who, I guess, you're 60 years old and you still know in your heart that you're in hell. Or maybe I don't know. Maybe you stuff that out after a while, but that
Well,
would
you lose your soul. Yeah, it's just brutal.
yeah. So it's a cautionary tale for myself and for hopefully for the other young people who are listening, because it was the highs and lows of sex versus being scared that you're gonna be pregnant with this person and never being true to yourself. And
Well,
wow,
and
yeah,
then you have the problem, which is that because you didn't really respect yourself, you end up with your children not really respecting you. Because your children grow up, and I'm sure you didn't really respect your father for his decision to get married to and have children with your mother.
no,
So the problem is that you end up with your kids not respecting you because they're like, why would I take life advice from a guy like, let's say you got married at 25, right? And your kid's 15, right? And you say, son, this is how you should live. And your kid will say, like, what are you talking about? I mean, you were like 10 years older than me and you married mom. Like, who are you to tell me anything?
yeah, I do not.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's horrible for sure.
and looking at it now, it was so clear that her younger brother, and obviously she couldn't even say it. They both didn't respect their dad,
Right.
and the cycle continues.
Right. Right. But
And I
yeah,
would,
no, you're absolutely right. If you want to look at how you're going to be treated, you look at the woman's behavior towards her father and her judgment of that behavior. So if the woman behaves disrespectfully towards her father and doesn't have any particular problem with it, then that's bad. If the woman says, "Oh yeah, my mother, she doesn't treat my dad very well. I really don't like it, and I've talked to her about it, but she's kind of stuck in her ways. But I wouldn't do that. I don't treat my father that way. I don't like that my mother treats my father that way. All of that kind of stuff, right? Well, then that's good. Then you got more than a chance, right?
yeah,
But she didn't do that, right? It was all, yep, seems natural to me.
that's the way she is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's nothing in particular that's wrong with it, right? Okay. Well, that's no good. That's a bad.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, just I think noticing all these things just makes me so much more efficient and not just jumping straight to the thoughts of the nads, but
Well,
uh
yeah, and listen, you tried it. You're like, okay, what if I just go with lust? What if I silence myself? Well, you can't do too many of these for the simple reason that your heart gets a little hurt, your heart gets a little scarred, and also at some point, we don't get forever to find love, to have love. That's not we don't have forever. You get maybe 2 or 3 chances, and that's lucky as hell. I got one. And when I got it, I struck like a cobra and never let go. And so the problem is you spend a year here, 2 years there, and the pickings get kind of slim into your late 20s because all the good women are taken and the good men are taken, but of course you're looking for the woman. And then what happens is you kind of cruise into your late 20s and there's all these sort of leftovers and broken people. And I know I got married in my 30s, so, but that's, you don't take your financial advice from someone saying, hey, just play the lottery. I mean, I was just really lucky. And also the woman, she might cross your path when you're dating someone where it's not going to work out. You might sit across from her at a dinner party that's kind of gay for a young man, but whatever you're doing, right? Whatever you're doing, you're at a coffee shop, eyes meet or whatever, right? And you're with your girlfriend. So she just shrugs and goes back to reading her copy of von Mises's Human Action or something like that. And you're like, damn, I had that. I mean, when I was in my 20s, there was a girl I liked and I thought we would have been good for each other. Really liked her. Thought we would have been really good for each other. But she had a boyfriend. Now, I knew her boyfriend was a dingbat. I knew it. He was self-deprecating. He had no particular ambition. And I knew that the relationship wasn't going to last. So I moved on. And because, I don't do that take the girl thing. I mean, maybe if she'd thrown herself at me. I don't know. It's hard to know. So many years ago. But I moved on. Now, I know she liked me. I mean, we'd go play tennis together and blah, blah, blah. This is when I was still in university. And we hung out a lot together, and she was great. So I ended up dating someone else. And then things were pretty rocky with her boyfriend, and then I graduated, and we kind of lost touch with each other. And, maybe we would have been right for each other. I had that feeling. But she was dating someone. And then I ended up dating someone, and then we lost touch, and blah, blah, blah. And the problem is the opportunity cost. It's not the bird in the hand, it's the two in the bush. Sorry, that's a bit of an obvious analogy. But it is basically that if you keep wasting your time on relationships that aren't going to work out, you're probably and almost certainly going to miss the one that does work out. You got to keep yourself relatively available for just the right person. Because if we all say, oh, well, at least I'll be dating someone, it's like, but it's who you're not dating. It's who you're not dating that matters.
Mm.
And I'm not saying be totally celibate until you meet just the right girl. I mean, that's not the terrible option. But when you are honest with women, and honesty, of course, is not arrogant. It's like, hey, these are my arguments. I understand the other arguments, right? I totally get the pro-choice position. It does feel, for sure, like women are being controlled and bossed around and bullied and being forced at gunpoint to have children, which is pretty horrible, right? I get all of that. I really do. And I appreciate that argument. Maybe I'm 51-49, but I think we should err on the side of human life. Whatever it is you're going to put forward with humility, with, I think this is the way things go, but I'm not sure, blah, blah, blah. Right? That is, bring that argument forward, as opposed to, all the pro-choice people are just evil and narcissists and sociopaths. So, these are challenging positions. And I think if you're honest about that, and also say, I'll be honest with you, I'm nervous about bringing this up.
Mm.
Right? Because I'm concerned that if I'm honest with you, you're not going to like me. But I err on the side of honesty, because not being liked for who you are is pretty bad. But being liked for who you aren't is even worse.
Yeah.
And so that's the real-time relationships, just real honesty stuff, My father suppressed his whole personality just to be with my mother, and it looks like a pretty bad deal. A pretty bad deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Okay. I mean that you I think in the older podcasts you say the old podcast you say that you were dating somebody for 7 years and then you went through therapy and then you broke up with them. Did you have that same gut feeling? Because I really want more confidence in my gut, because I knew so early on that my gut said I should have, and I didn't act on it. That compound.
That you should have broken up.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean that I went to the the Landmark Forum and realized that I'd been with this woman for 7 years and I should make a decision. So then I proposed, and then it just got worse and worse. And then I broke up with her, and then I went to therapy. So, but I think it was the Landmark Forum that kind of prompted me into action. It got me out of that holding pattern. So it was a bit of a risky move. But yeah. So as far as I never broke up and looked back and said, "Oh, gee, I shouldn't have." And when I, within probably a month or two of dating my wife, or the woman that became my wife, I was like, I mean, I'm not upgrading from here. This is the right person, the right time, right place, and I've never felt any different since. So, yeah, again, you will trust your instincts, but you're going to have to break the cycle of, which is the cycle for a lot of men. Most men suppress their true selves in order to appease women's vanity. And it's, everybody's got their own perspective on this. Having done that and not done that, like if my wife, heaven forbid, got hit by a bus tomorrow and I couldn't find a woman I would be honest with, I'd just stay single. Like I'm not going back to this zombie half-life of appeasement. Like that's not a thing I could do. Having known what it's like to be loved for who I really am and be able to speak my mind about whatever I think and be listened to and, not always agreed with, but that's not what I want anyway. So I couldn't. And once you've sort of tasted that, being liked and respected for who you are, man, I'm telling you, it's a one-way street. You can't go back. Don't make me.
Well, that gives me an incredible ideal to strive for and for hope, just hope in general, because it's just like you said, I tried the lust thing and it was terrible. It was not me. So yeah, that gives me an incredible amount of confidence in my gut feelings and my intuitions, and knowing so far beforehand that it wasn't right, that I will use that and the methodology, that idea of the methodology, uh, for the future. That's yeah.
Yeah, it's and honestly, this stuff comes out of the sale. To some of it comes out of sales, which is when I was doing sales work for top end corporations, you had to make 100 calls to get a sale, and knowing that you didn't want to waste time on calls that weren't going to lead anywhere, and so you're probably going to have to meet 20 or 30 girls. Meet, I don't mean date, right? But you're probably going to have to meet 20 or 30 girls, and then you're going to meet a girl who thinks for herself. I'm not saying, I think the numbers are slightly slower for women. They tend to be a bit more conformist, but you're going to have to meet a lot of girls. And the purpose for me, when I was doing all of those sales calls or cold calls or whatever, the whole purpose for me was to move on from the people who were going to say no, because then I'm one step closer to the person who's going to say yes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, just recognize it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while. And the important thing is to move on as quickly as possible from the girls who don't want you to be yourself, who don't want you to be honest, so that you can more quickly get to the women or the girl who does want you to be yourself and does want you to be honest. Because
Who
that's
is a
where,
play?
yeah, sorry.
I was gonna say, who is a playable character?
Yeah. Who is somebody else on the other side of the VR that isn't programmed by some sweaty guy in India, right? So that's what
Yeah.
that's what you want. Just keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. Nope. Every no gets you closer to the yes that you really need. And
Okay.
also the other thing too is that it's very attractive to women. It's very attractive to women when you have standards. It's very attractive to women when you have standards. So, have standards. It's really, really important. And neither of you had standards, right?
Yes.
I wish she was your age. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, so share your thoughts and feelings and see who likes you. I mean, it's served me pretty well in life, I would say.
Share your thoughts and feelings and see who likes you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, be yourself, because then if somebody likes you, you're irreplaceable. NPCs are totally replaceable. I mean, this girl could be replaced with any other hot programmed female. Right? It's just it's the same code, a different skin. I know that sounds a little sinister, but I mean skin in the modding sense, right? But yeah, it's the same character. Oh, look, I'll make her a redhead. Oh, I'll make her taller. Oh, I'll make her Asian. Whatever, right? I mean, so it's just the same person with a different skin on. It's the same NPC, just different skin. But if you are yourself, then whoever loves you can't replace you, because you're not like anybody else, right?
That's a great thing to think about. If I could replace this person
There's this meme. I watched once. It's not a meme. It's like a short video. And it's a guy driving past a sorority where the girls are literally all dressed the same. It's like, oh, look at me. You'll never find another girl like me anywhere, right? And it's something it's always sort of stuck with me that, if I am to someone's taste, there's no one else like me, because I am myself, right? And when we are ourselves, people will either dislike us or like us. But if we're just like everyone else, why would they choose us? Well, the only reason would be lust, and that passes. So it's inherently, it's got a egg timer on it.
Yeah, and it's just been a trend of me that I guess it's just a process, but I just going through the old podcast, I just see now that through my friends, through my family, through this ex that I had, I've never been myself. I've never been able to share what I actually care about. I've never been able to talk about philosophy with anybody, about virtue with anybody. All of this has just been the Pink Floyd skating on the thin ice. It's just been it's been nothing So, um, and I've heard you say before that, which is my next step, which is just finding and getting the real friends and removing the ones that were fake, because what would a virtuous woman think of those friends who don't really who don't know you? They don't
Well, your
really.
friends will mean a lot more if you don't have family, because friends are the family you choose, right? So she's going to judge you more by your friends than even by your family if she's wise.
That gives me even more gusto to evaluate all my friends. So, all right, well, I am feeling much better now,
Good.
and those gives me that gives me an amazing criteria for dating in the future, because I tried out the lust thing, that none of these things were ever brought up and would have saved me a lot of time, a lot of anguish, and a lot of fear and paranoia. So, uh, I really, really appreciate it, and I will use all of these things.
Beautiful. Okay, well, listen, keep me posted. And if there are women who are listening to this who are, I guess, within an age range that you would be happy with, who want to email me at support@freedomain.com, support@freedomain.com, would you be interested in having any emails forwarded to you?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right. So we will say the subject line will be hot, confused 10-monther. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, if you can pull a hottie, I assume you're attractive yourself. So if any young ladies want to get in touch with this fine caller, you can email support@freedomain.com and reference this call, and we will forward the emails. And I hope that you get someone that you meet, and we can get yet another marriage cranked into the FDR machinery. All right, brother. Keep me posted. I really appreciate your call tonight, man.
Thank you so much, Steph. It's been a blast.
All the best. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.